Okay, calling to order the Committee on International and Legal Affairs. Noting all members are present. I'm going to have to read this precursor, so please bear with me. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 HRS, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in person in the council chamber and remotely when each agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the HRS, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to perform in English translation on their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to 1-minute presentations on each item. For persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference, will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the hand raise feature in Zoom to be called on. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your phone number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time when you testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks. Once all the testifiers have testified, I will proceed to remote testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimony of registered speakers. HRX Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will call for objections. If there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off your cell phones. Okay, moving on to agenda item 1, resolution 25-5, confirming Mike Formby as managing director. I understand it's your birthday. Happy birthday, managing director. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. Committee Chair Nishimoto, Vice Chair Wire, Council Chair Waters, Council members, Mike Formby, Managing Director Designate. And I actually didn't prepare an opening statement because I feel like I've worked with all of you now for quite a while and hopefully have established a reputation. Had a meeting with Chair Nishimoto this morning, our first opportunity to sit down face-to-face and talk, and appreciated that. But I'm here to answer any questions that you might have or receive feedback from you, things that you think we can do better in the second term. I'm all ears and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. We'll proceed to in-person testimony. Any registered in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, anyone else wishing to testify in the audience, please come forward now. Seeing none, let's move to remote testimony. Are there any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, let's move to discussion and questions. Members, any questions for Managing Director Formby? Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Managing Director. Thank you for being here and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I appreciate your communication. I think directly, you know, when you and I talk, it's always very clear. I understand you. We communicate clearly. My question is, what is the best way to communicate to the administration? Because sometimes I feel like I do communicate well with you, but then, you know, things get lost in translation. Is it that you guys want more formal letters written? Or I'm talking about like between departmental, you know, we talked about this in the last hearing. when the ball gets dropped, various departments are working on what, like, what is the best way to convey what we really are trying to say so that it's like clear?
Sure, I'm happy to respond to that. Here's my preference. My preference is that when you know you have a question or a concern for a specific department, you go to the director. But if you don't get a response from the director, then you come to me. And if it's an issue that seems to be between departments, so you know that there's 2 or 3 departments that are working on an issue and it seems to have stalled, you come to me. Because Krishna and I are basically the problem solvers that get the departments to work together, that get them to talk and coordinate so that things get done. And I think all of you have my cell phone number, and do text me, and I encourage you to text me if there's something that you need to follow up on. But you can always do it formally, and we'll respond, but that takes more time. So our position is you can reach out to the departments directly. We don't discourage that, as I think the prior administration did not like that. We allow that, but we're always here to help. So if you don't get something in the time frame you want it, reach out to us.
Yeah, I've tried that. I think definitely we do that. I want to say if there is a way that DIT can actually make some type of board, because it's not like a riser. It's different than that. I'll give
Right.
you a case in point. Yesterday, when the housing director came, he lists on top of there a project in my district that we've talked about many times with housing, with DCS, and then it still appears on the sheet after we said we're not going to do that. And then I actually escorted people into my district to show them where we could do one. And then I went out with Dr. Ireland, I went out with Director Crookie. I've done it so many times. So if there is another way that we can track these that are a little bit higher levels, so not at the riser level, that we know that you guys are trying to get at it or that you're getting the message clearly, because I did talk directly to them. And then I, of course, have talked to you. So just if there is a way that maybe DIT can get involved to kind of track these, because I would imagine that it gets numerous. So
Appreciate that.
that's something that I really think the coordination could be better on.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Nishimoto. Hi, Managing Director R.B. Thank you very much, and great question from Councilmember Tupola. First off, yes, you've definitely been very responsive, even if you are just swamped in meetings, even if you can't answer our calls, and definitely appreciate that it's been trickling to the other departments as well. I think also at the same time where we are a whole team as a city, at the same time, understanding that the City Council in its lawmaking, legislative, policy-making role does have their role as well. And but looking past that, where if our communities just want to see us in lockstep too with the administration at efforts in our district. So would love to just know things ahead of time, be able to participate with the administration, and that's really where I was coming from the council meeting, and still now. I don't think it. No matter where we stand on issues, I think it's good that our communities get to see their elected lawmakers there with the administration too. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. I share your position on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Mahal, Managing Director. For all the work you're doing, I know you're balancing so many responsibilities. And each of us have a portion of Oahu, and then you have the entire island. Appreciate the just all the information that you're relaying to council regarding tracking federal activities and what's going on. Understanding, and I know we had this conversation with Director Quano, there's a lot of uncertainty, so of course we're not trying to fearmonger, but we also want to just be prepared, right, and understand next steps. And we already know that the U.S. just initiated litigation against, I think it was New York, after already having litigation with other states. And so just wanted to ask, in your position as Managing Director, understanding what the next 4 years could look like, and all the conversations we've been having, if you could just share some insight on how you're preparing for that, how the city is going to be prepared for that. And then just anything that our constituents and residents can take comfort in knowing what the city is going to be prioritizing.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The first thing I wanted to say is really sort of a follow-up on what Councilmember Cordero said, and that's that really what's happening in DC right now is what they call chaos. In fact, some people think that's a strategy, chaos strategy. I talked to Senator Schott's office about that yesterday, and I think one thing that's comforting to the residents of Oahu is when they see a body like City Council and the Blangiardi administration working very well together, collaboratively, on behalf of the people, that they don't see the same kind of chaos here that they see at the national level. So I think that's very important, and that's a mindset that we have. And so we're doubling down on that for the second term. It's to let the residents know that working with council, we prioritize their needs, and certainly the loss of federal funds is a huge concern for us. So right now, we're in the process of putting final amendments on our Excel spreadsheet that's going out to every department. They've already been told to start itemizing federal funds, and we're going to be collecting in a uniform manner from every department and office all federal funds. So whether it's DCS, earmarks, or I'm sorry, CDS, congressionally directed spending, earmarks, or whether it's formula funds or discretionary funds, or a grant that we got, a HUD program, they're going to have to tell us and eventually you, because I know the budget chair is interested in this for council as well, what federal funds we have in the city and what the risk is of losing them. And right now we're working with our contact in DC, which is the source of the emails that I forward to Chair Waters and you, Vice Chair, about what's happening in DC. And the answer is we just don't know right now. There's federal challenges to almost everything that has been proposed as far as cuts. And I keep abreast of whether or not the administration is going to follow the courts versus challenge the courts. I think that becomes a constitutional issue that nobody wants to go to, but we simply don't know. But we're watching everything. We're tracking it in DC and locally. And then one thing that I don't think I'm speaking out of school here, but the mayor and myself and Director Kawano are putting in the budget a contingency for loss of federal funds, because I think we have to be prepared. And depending on where it happens, let's say it's staff that's federally funded and we need those positions, we may have to fund them locally. And then if it's discretionary grants that are of significant amount, we're going to have to prioritize at the local level where we want to put our contingency monies, because we don't have a lot of contingency money, but we're putting it in the budget. So for the first time, you're going to see a provision for match for existing federal grants, programs, and you're also going to see a contingency fund for federal funding. And it's unfortunate we have to do that, but we think we do. So we are preparing, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, willing to receive those from you.
Appreciate that, Managing Director. And then just final question, Chair. And just to kind of go off of that, is it fair to just say that the administration's position would be that all of the protections we currently have under city and state laws for both our workers and our residents are protections in whatever capacity they exist, that the city would continue to uphold and support, irrespective of what pressures could come down the line?
I hope so, and I think you'll see that the funding we proposed is definitely enough to cover all federally funded positions.
Okay.
But it is not enough to cover all of the federal funds that we're receiving. There's just no way we could do that in the budget.
Okay. I appreciate those sentiments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair Waters.
Thank you, Chair Nishimoto. This goes to you and all the nominees actually on today's agenda, that I'm so impressed and thankful for your hard work and dedication. Countless times I've been CC'd on emails that you personally have dealt with my constituents, and I'm so thankful for that. In particular, certain issues that I had difficulty with that you helped out, Leahi Avenue, Kahala Baseball Field, and the early morning garbage pickup in Waikiki. And I really appreciate all that. On the macro level, dealing with heart, working with the mayor, and solving that difficult problem, working together on the budget, and now hazard pay. So just thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. Managing Director, and this also goes to the Deputy Managing Director. Thank you guys so much for the last 4 years. I've always appreciated your collaborative, collaboration with me, competency, and just ability to work on issues not only important to my district, but to all of Oahu. And I'm hoping to continue that relationship. I did want to just talk a little, build off about the environment at the federal level and talk about that. First, on the building of the capacity front, I feel that we do have a strategy in hand and you're moving forward on that. So looking forward to seeing the budget as well. But I do believe that given the toxicity of the environment, that it's so important for each of us individually, as well as the administration, to strengthen our ties in Washington, D.C. And that's not just through a D.C. lobbyist and our current contacts. It's through the incoming administration. And so I just would like to make sure that that is part of your strategy, that you contact the Intergovernmental Affairs Office for the White House, as well as all of the various agencies, and just go to them straight. Because, you know, we are a nonpartisan city council, and I would like to think that the leadership individually of the mayor is going to be a crucial factor here. So I do know that several of us are going to DC at the ending of the month for the National Association of Counties, and I'm personally going to see as many people as possible, officially and unofficially, to get some of my own ground intelligence. And I just would hope that the mayor at some point in time, and yourself and other key leaders like the budget director, will be making your own trip to Washington, D.C. to go and strengthen ties. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, Councilmember Cordero and I met with the Compacts of Free Association community, as well as with some of their diplomatic envoys from all three, the freely associated states, as well as community leaders, because we are worried about the impact of the deportations for illegal immigrants applying to COFA citizens living in Hawaii because they are legal. And of course, we are also concerned because they've just recently been made eligible for a multitude of federal programs, social programs. And then, of course, under the compacts, it's significant. It's hundreds of millions of dollars that they get annually under mandatory funding. And we discussed that, and I hope that when we're there, we will be able to continue that dialogue. But deeply concerning, because a simple snafu of Homeland Security not getting the notification that they should be treated separately, and then we're going to have an impact in many of our communities, especially Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, as well as Councilmember Cordero. So I'm just saying that I know we're doing our best, but it's going to take a lot from each of us individually, and I'm looking for the leadership of the administration and the mayor individually, and if he thinks that it is productive to have some council members go with him, then I think that that should be explored. Anyway, thank you so much.
So, council member, thank you for that advice. I agree with you, and I think one thing that I didn't mention and you're aware of is that council did put money in the budget for us to get another DC representative, and one of the keys to that representative is that they work both sides of the House and the Senate. We're not looking for someone that is good with the Dems and not good with the Republicans. They have to be able to work both sides, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Rep. Tobo.
Thank you, Chair. Director Forby, how are you? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. And, like my colleagues, you've definitely done an amazing job in getting involved in making sure that people in my district that needed the help get the help, and so I appreciate you doing that. I know you talked a little bit about hazard pay in the budget, but for people watching, status on that, and I just wanted to know, what have been the most significant challenges and success you've executed during your 4 years, and how you have shaped your views in this next coming 4 years, and how maybe you're gonna do things differently or better.
Thank you, council member. So I appreciate that. First on hazard pay, we will be coming to council. The plan right now is to come to council on February 26th. We have negotiated what we hope are settlement agreements that will be ratified at some point before the 26th for both SHOPO and HGEA. We're still in negotiations. I have a meeting with Randy Pereira tomorrow morning. For UPW, they went through arbitration, and we have an arbitration decision by Justice Akoba on July 30th, 2024. So we have a payment plan that we propose to UPW for their temporary hazard pay. And they have agreed in principle to the payment plan. But what we have to do between now and the 26th is make sure that all three can be compromised within the appropriation that you gave us, which was $115 million. And so that's what we'll be bringing to the council on the 26th. I hope we have it wrapped up by then. If one of the unions has not ratified, then it would come to you as a settlement agreement subject to ratification. And if we don't have an agreement with one of the unions, which would most likely be HGEA because we're still talking with them, then we would do a portion, the two that we have resolved, and we would hold out for the third one. But the goal is to resolve them amicably and not get into litigation or protracted arbitration. For your questions about success, so it's probably unconventional answer, but I think I share with Mayor a philosophy that our biggest success is the cabinet that we put together. And we did it in the middle of COVID, and we did it through a website that invited anybody to apply to be a part of cabinet. And through that website, we got 550 applications. And then we set up committees, and the committees interviewed the applicants and made recommendations to the mayor and I. And I feel like the team that we put together, including the changes that we've made along the way, is a solid team. And as far as what I bring to that, I think it's my belief that we collaborate with the legislative branch, with the council at the city level. That is very important. We serve the same constituents. Each of you have constituents in your districts, and you have needs and requests of us, and that we serve together to do the best. And I think we put together a team that reflects that value system, and that's very important to me. Probably number one, respect and value sharing of public service on behalf of our constituents. Challenges and things that we have done that are still ongoing are the wicked problems. And we got that phrase, wicked problems, from the Bloomberg Harvard Cities Leadership Initiative when we went to that. There are numerous articles written about these problems that cities can't resolve because they just go on and on and on, homelessness being one of them, planning and permitting being another. And I feel like we have not kicked the can down the road on these wicked problems. We've taken them on, beginning with DPP, and then Office of Housing, which had one member in it when we came. Now we're putting together a housing office that will be combined with DLM so that we can maximize our ability at the city level to provide affordable housing. Other ones that we've addressed are rail. When we came in, rail was in a very precarious position. They had lost their CEO. They hadn't received any federal funding since 2017. And working with Council Chair Waters and Council, we managed to bring stability back to that project, to amend the full funding grant agreement, and to restore federal funding in the amount of roughly $750 million. And now we've got the first leg operating. The second leg will start in October of this year, which will get us past major work centers, the shipyard, the airport, and into Kalihi. So I feel like working with council, we've done some major resolution of wicked problems, and we have more to follow. So we have landfill, which I'm convinced we will get that resolved with the help of the legislature, and the Board of Water Supply, and this body. And we have sewer fees, and that's a significant. Chair Waters brought that up yesterday because that's a cost of living issue for our residents. But we'll get beyond it and we'll figure out how to do it. So I look forward to working with council more, but that's my answer.
Thank you, sir. Again, happy birthday.
Okay, thank you, members. Any other questions? Seeing none, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Any WRs or noes? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council members.
Moving on to Resolution 25-8, nomination of Dana Viola to serve as Corporation Counsel. Ms. Viola?
Good afternoon, Chair Nishimoto, Vice Chair Wire, Chair Waters, and honorable council members. Dana Viola, Corporation Counsel Designate. I'm going to follow the Managing Director's lead and not provide an opening statement and open myself up to questions.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Tupola?
Thank you, Ms. Viola. I really appreciate your office. I think the few times that we have worked together on specific questions that I had or documents, you guys quickly followed up. You guys were able to educate me on things that were a little difficult for me and spent quite a bit of time helping me with that. So I just want to say thank you. I wanted you to give us an update on how your physical situation is going for your department. Is it leaky? Are you in water? Are you flooded? How is it going?
Okay, so we're dry right now. We have a pipe issue that it's going to be a long-term fix. This is for the temporary basement that we've been placed in, and that's only just the core group, about 12 people. So the rest of our department, as you know, has been evacuated from our first floor normal residence, and we're teleworking and we're in different locations within the city. We are scheduled now we're scheduled to start the move move all our furniture and our supplies and all our files on the 28th of February, so yay. And hopefully that'll take about 6 days, and so it looks like Corporation Counsel will have a new location in the beginning of March, which we've been working hard to get finished. So thank you for asking. But currently our basement is dry, our temporary quarters are dry, and we're working on fixing the pipe.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a shout out on top of all of the legal cases you're handling to actually have an unstable working environment. Just thank you to you. Thank you to all of your department that's been going back and forth on how to still be productive with all of these challenges. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And I really have to credit my departments. The deputies and staff have really been patient, and they've persevered through all the challenges that we've met being displaced for about 8 months now.
Okay, anybody else want to ask questions? Councilmember Kiana.
Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I know I won't go over some of the issues we've already discussed, but there is an issue that's top of mind for me right now relating to fireworks, since we're having a hearing tomorrow only for discussion for Bill 7. And this afternoon, we're going to be hearing nominations on the Charter Commission. And it's been flagged by your office of a charter provision, Section 13-115, fines and penalties. I want to flag it for you because I kind of am just interested in the policy justification of why they would limit us. And it just basically says that no criminal penalty shall exceed the amount of $2,000 or 1 year's imprisonment or both. Criminal prosecution shall be as provided by law for the prosecution of misdemeanors. It is my intent to modify, have a CD1 at next month's hearing to address the legal concerns that have been flagged for me. So there will be no legal concerns. But this provision seems to be still problematic for me, whether it be fireworks or anything else. So I just wanted to flag it for you and to see if your office could work with me to find out what the rationale is and whether we should consider revising it. The Charter Commission should be revising it.
So I'd be happy to work with your office to continue to provide legal advice. There are issues regarding state preemption that we wouldn't be able to remedy by charter. So, but we'll continue the discussion.
That's correct. But on the state preemption issue, we're going to address that in the CD1 that I have. What I'm worried about is it's both this charter provision and the state laws that are prohibiting us. So we will be addressing the state laws in the manner of how we word our CD1 for Bill 7. But I still think this is problematic in general, not just for fireworks, but for all violations. And that's what I'm concerned about, the history. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we'll continue to work with you.
Okay, further questions? Seeing none, we still need to take testimony on this. So if there's anybody in person who would like to testify, please step forward. Okay, any registered remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, the chair's recommends that resolution 25-8 be reported out for adoption. Discussion. Any WRs or noes? Thank you. Chair would like to go back to resolution 25.5. It's been brought to my attention that I did not use the language reported out for adoption. So if we could revote on resolution 25.5 with the chair's recommendation being that resolution 25-5 be reported out for adoption. Okay? Any WRs or noes? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to resolution 2515, the nomination of Nola Miyazaki to serve as Director of Human Resources.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Wire, and members of the City Council. It's been a privilege, truly a privilege, to serve the mayor for the last 4 years and to work closely with the council. And I'm very pleased that in the last 4 years we've worked very hard to implement significant changes to really meet one of the mayor's biggest priorities in the city, which is to fill our vacancies. We've made a lot of progress to modernize DHR internally and in our impact across the city, and in particular in the process reengineering and recruitment and hiring, which has resulted in greater hiring in record times in the last 2 to 3 years. So we really I look forward, my team and I look forward to working closely with the city to really continue the momentum that we have and do more to really transform the way the city attracts talent, hires, and especially retains our employees in the city. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here wishing to testify in person, please step forward. Okay, any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Director Appointee. We met, which I'm really grateful for. If you could explain, you mentioned that in your time now you've been able to address the issues of vacancies. What have you been doing? What kinds of things have the department doing to address the hiring processes, the efficiency of it, and really, I think updating the system, whatever your system you have, what have you been doing to address that? Because there are so many departments with so many needs, but what have you been doing to address those needs?
Well, when I first arrived at the city, at the Department of Human Resources about 3 years ago, we had a 10-week study by our Harvard Bloomberg fellow, and together we looked at all of the hiring and recruitment processes that we do. And one of the most important and significant realizations that we made was that it took the city approximately 6 months to hire. And so our goal was to reduce that by 50%, and within a year we have reduced that 6 months to 3 months hiring. And so I'm pleased about that, but even more, my own department went from 49 days to process a requisition for hiring on the NeoGov platform. We went from 49 days to an average in the current fiscal year of 18 days. So between the budget and fiscal services, which approves the fiscal side of ability to hire fiscally, and our section 2, which is posting the job, examining the candidates, and passing the list to the departments, those two stages have gone down by 63%. The departments have gone down by a little more than half, but really overall it's been a tremendous progress. So there's been a lot of process engineering, re-engineering that we've looked at. We looked at the way we use NeoGov, so just the technology improvement. Last year, council and the mayor and the budget department gave us a position to administer the platform. So we were using our NeoGov platform at about 37%. And so with all the features, and we've improved that. We've deployed it down to the departments at a greater rate. So overall, the efficiency there is improving and will continue to improve as we move forward. So all of because of the tremendous labor shortage, you know, right after COVID, we lost 20,000 people from our workforce. And we've continued to have a lot of outmigration of the demographic that is really our workforce to the mainland. So given the extreme labor shortage that we're facing and the competition, the state of Hawaii at one time, a year or two ago with us, we have a little more than 2,000 vacancies. They had 4,000. So we share a lot of the classes and we compete for jobs. So it really is a tremendous thing to say that over the last 2 full fiscal years, we increased our hiring, the number of civil service hires by 35% and 30% respectively, and in the midst of a labor shortage. And I think just understanding that, you know, so for the first time in 6 years, we have had a net positive. We still, you know, continue to work and will focus on retention of our employees, promotion. We launched a number of leadership programs in an effort to really improve the leadership training for our current leaders and emerging leaders. So all of those things have really gone towards what we want to do is to fill our jobs and to retain our employees.
Thank you. It's so good to hear. And I know that when we met, we've talked about this in this body before, where it does take. If it took 6 months, it was really hard for the city to hire people because somebody can't wait 6 months to be employed. They have families to support. So it's nice to hear that it's gone down. And I'm just curious. So you mentioned the NeoGov, which you're using. It sounds like you're using it more efficiently. So it wasn't due to more staffing. Was that what?
Well, we have a dedicated person to help provide support to departments so they know how to use it better. We've opened up a lot of features that we weren't using before to help make it more efficient for the people doing the hiring. And so just the greater use of the features that NeoGov offers has helped speed up the process and be more efficient. And one of the things, of course, in efficiency is that with this kind of labor shortage, you know, speed to hiring is critical.
Thank you. It's true. And I have one more question, Chair. You mentioned the retention as well. We've talked about this in the past where it's hard to attract qualified candidates. And with many times the salary that we're able to offer here, which doesn't compete with outside either the private or the federal sectors. So what are we looking at with retention after we get somebody in and they're trained? I've heard this in different departments. They're trained and at the dime of the city, but then they go out. How often is that happening? And is that a concern that we need to address as well?
Yes, I think that over the last, for quite a long time, our attrition runs about 6 to 8%, and about a little less than half of that is our retirees. So we have a really large segment of our employee base who are retirement eligible. So that's a challenge for us. And there isn't a lot we can do about that, except that we have launched some aggressive succession planning training for the department so that we can prepare better. We can prepare our existing staff and the departments across the city to adapt and adjust when we have longtime employees who leave, and just creating a pipeline of talent, knowledgeable talent. But we do have, you know, attrition, and we've probably implemented a number of different approaches to retention, but I think we will be launching in the next term for the mayor is a citywide employee engagement survey and program that is more really recognizes the need to retain as well as the need to hire, as well as a more consistent, probably centralized exit interview process. We do have some anecdotal data. We have some basic data that the departments fill out when someone leaves, where they're going in it, but it's very, it's not very qualitative. So we will be looking at that because we really need to capture more concrete data to be able to address some of the trends and to identify the trends that are causing the attrition.
And based on what you just shared, what are your timelines to receive this data and get it out? What kind of timeline are you giving yourselves?
Well, we haven't done exit interviews for probably decades. If we did, it was many, many, many years ago. So we are ready to pilot something, but we're also looking at, you know, just gathering some expertise because we don't really have that expertise in-house right now. And so, you know, I think interviews are a tricky thing. We want to make sure that we capture accurate but good data, but we also have to make sure that we can use it's useful for us.
Thank you, Director Appointee Miyazaki. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any other questions? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Nishimoto. Hi, Director Designate Miyazaki.
Good afternoon.
Hope you're doing well, and thank you for always being responsive. My question is relating to, of course, the things that we cannot control, which is basically the classes that we follow the rest of the state and the other 3 counties for, right? And so, is it of your opinion, or maybe it's an opportunity to come up with personal service contracts that will be able to give more flexibility in terms of salary and also what we request, the responsibilities that we request of them, of a position, to then just help our needs in different departments?
Well, contracts in the civil service system are really designed to be temporary, and that's why they end with each fiscal year. And we are limited by collective bargaining. We are not allowed, with a few exceptions that are outlined by statute, we're not really allowed to replace civil service, regular civil service job duties and positions with contracts unless we're, you know, it fits in one of the exceptions. So our, you know, in terms of the classifications, we are looking at updating classifications and, you know, trying to work with the jurisdictions on the shared classes to make improvements where we do and to try to kind of streamline that process. So it's one of the issues is that it takes a long time to do the research to reclassify or to make changes, especially when we have the jurisdictions that we have to consult, you know, coordinate with. But we are looking at different kinds of technology and technology platforms that may help us do that. So I think there's a common, a joint agreement among the jurisdictions that we do need some changes, and hopefully we'll be able to make those a little bit faster and try to improve and modernize how we, you know, these classifications and job descriptions.
And so the classifications and job descriptions are then going to also affect the salaries that are at those collective, that are tied to those bargaining units too, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, everything is part of the compensation system, and it's very tightly, you know, knit together. So it is a little bit tricky when we talk about broad classes, but we are working on some ideas.
Do we have a timeline? And I know that it may have to be convened by the state first, right? Then for the rest of the counties. So what's the process for that? Can you fight for that process to happen quicker? Can Honolulu be like, let's get this done?
Well, we have 1,500 classes in the city, and I think the issue is really identifying the ones, you know, we have an idea of the ones that are more challenging, but we do rely on the departments to let us know when a classification isn't meeting the needs or something has changed, the jobs have changed. So that process, I think, you know, we are looking at also so that we can try to get a better handle ahead of time. Usually what happens is that when a department wants to fill a position or several positions that they haven't filled for a while, for a long time employee may have left, they sometimes realize when they get ready to fill it through a hiring that it's outdated and needs to be updated. And because we have been really focused on trying to hire fast, that process of reclassification and looking at the changes of classification can take months. So then, that's one of the challenges is, updating classifications does take a little bit of time, which is where we're trying to improve that process with technology and try to figure out how to get departments to work with us in advance to identify those classes that they would like to have changes before they have to fill it, before it becomes vacant.
Okay. So, I mean, I get that it's all tied to, working with the unions, but it's just so limiting. And I want you and the rest of the city administration, I mean, I don't know, just make a threat for us to leave this system, maybe. I don't know. We have a lot of the employees that are in this system, this compensation system. So it just takes way too long. And we want to prioritize having our capacity. And I really hope that can be our focus now that we're 5 years post the start of the COVID pandemic. And I think we just need to get people in quicker. And I think the limiting factor is what it is limiting. So it probably will hurt me in the future, but I just want to say that because we need help and we want to give people more money for the talents that they have. So just want to state that.
Thank you, Council Member. I think another challenge for us is that this is an area that, the city and a lot of the jurisdictions haven't faced before with the large number of vacancies and the labor shortage at the same time. And so all of the jurisdictions, including the city, we have a very small classification and pay staff, and it takes years for them to get trained up. So that's another issue where we want to expand capacity. There aren't people that we can hire. We've hired new people to fill jobs, but to hire a contractor, it takes a couple of years for them to get trained up. So that's our internal capacity issue. When we try to move fast on classifications, redoing position descriptions and updating all of these things, plus processing, the different recruitment issues in this one classification division. That's, I think, a big challenge for us as well.
Understood. Another thing is that for a lot of the newer positions, I think I asked, who was it yesterday? I'm not sure, or Director Quano. It's like if we're adding more positions into newly formed, merged departments, I would like to see the same amount of positions maybe scrapped. Like, let's get rid of them. Like, there's plenty that have been vacant for forever, for as long as I've been alive, maybe. So I just want to see us get rid of them, stop tying money to it, and yeah, that's what I want to see this year and the next coming years. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Member Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Director. I know you're working super hard, and there's a lot of complex components. And sorry if I'm asking you to repeat yourself, but just given the nature of the conversation, well, one, I think, I would ask, what could I do as a council member? What's the best way we could help with increasing public sector employment pay so that there's no one in government that is qualifying as very low income, right, or having to rely on public benefits? Because I think we could all agree that's kind of absurd if the government is employing someone when we've gotten rid of indentured servitude that potentially has to actually go and get public benefits. And I know that's not a common thing at the city, but I'm just saying that, broadly speaking, what's the best way we can support, or I could support as a council member? Because I know we've had this conversation the past couple of years.
I think that's a question that, the city has, and the city and state and all of the public sector jurisdictions have collective bargaining, and so we are bound by the contracts, and the pay schedules are set by collective bargaining. We're in the middle of collective bargaining for 9 unions that we have in the city. So to a large extent, that, you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the way the voting for these contracts works, all jurisdictions are considered the employer. So we all are connected to the same collective bargaining agreement for every single union, but the governor has 4 votes. Each of the jurisdictions has 1 vote, including the mayor of the city and county. So to the extent that we, you know, agree or disagree, to a large extent, if we don't agree with the package or the salary or the wages, as long as there are 5 votes, that's the majority and the contract goes. So we do have, it is a process, and it's an established process that the unions and the city follow. But having said that, you know, we are very aware that there are certain classes that are at the lower end of the pay scale, and we are, you know, we try to make as many changes as we can on our own that we can do unilaterally, personnel policies and that kind of thing, to try to address some of the lower, you know, different pay scales that we can adjust in terms of recruitment. But once employees come into the city, it's very difficult to make any changes. We really aren't allowed to make changes unless they're part of the collective bargaining agreement. Right. So that's our challenge, is that we've made a lot of aggressive policies at the front end when we bring people on to try to address the salary issues. But we are a little bit challenged unless there's a promotion or a step movement or something that's already approved by the collective bargaining agreement.
I see. I mean, do you feel like that's a fair assumption, or is even that debatable? Like, in these conversations, do you think it's fair to assume all the city governments and the state government agrees no one should work for us, but then also be eligible for like low-income subsidies or, you know, benefits? Or is even that debated nowadays?
I think that there's a general agreement that certain classes are, you know, obviously they're less complex work and they require lower, you know, requirements. But I think that's probably, you know, there's no disagreement about the different classes and where they fall on the pay scale. But one of the challenges that we have is that there's a compensation system, and that's where employees in all of the classes and the positions fall, so that they're all graded and paid according to the complexity and the kind of work they do, the qualifications it requires to get into the jobs. And that's, you know, for example, at the bargaining 3 levels, a lot of them do not require, most of them, you know, until you get to bargaining unit 13, they do not require college degrees. Okay. And some of them don't require experience. And so they're actually designed for promotion. So a lot of those early entry-level jobs are designed so that you go there for a year and then you get promoted after 1 year. And so they're designed for progression. So you'll see a lot of employees come in at, you know, a clerk, an SR level, that's a clerk, and then they have 1 or 2 years, and then they can get promoted to a progressional position. So it does sound low at the beginning, but it's meant to be, you know, it's not always meant for people to stay at that level. And then, of course, the way that the salary schedule works, most of the salary schedules allow for additional raises every couple of years, at least in the HGEA bargaining unit 13s. Every couple of years you get another increase. So you actually, you know, move across the schedule in terms of increases that are in addition to the annual across-the-board increases. So there are mechanisms now, whether they need to be adjusted. Those are things that the employers and the unions would have to agree on, but that is something that I think we're always in discussion during these collective bargaining sessions.
Okay, I appreciate that sentiment. I mean, I think we all acknowledge that wherever someone starts, even if they're like, I would assume we all want a promotion, but you still have to pay your rent, your food, your health care, all your expenses during that first year while you're waiting for the promotion. So I mean, I hope we'd all agree.
I understand.
And last question, Chair. So, I mean, just understanding that if all of the salary funds are in the same pot, right, in each department, I mean, theoretically, wouldn't it be possible to do pay differentials or incentives just across the board, and not even needing to fill every single vacant position, but just increasing capacity at every department, right? Especially since we've seen that pay differentials have worked for engineers. If we're also understanding that, yeah, we have to get a bunch, like, you know, there's a lot of people affected, other counties, other states, but then we also have to make kind of our own value judgment too about, you know, where are we at as a city? How are we treating our community members that work here, but are also, you know, our constituents? It's just a thought, like, because we wouldn't even need to use all of the funding in the budget. Could still save money, right? If we're, you know, increasing capacity, not necessarily filling every position, but using pay incentives or differentials to help, you know, make it more feasible for folks that want to serve the community, to say, hey, I can survive and take care of my family while serving the community. I don't know. I mean, do you have any thoughts or feedback on that?
Yes, we, you know, as much as we can, we put differentials into place for shortage categories and critical to fill categories. So that's where you see certain classes like building inspectors and the engineers, they have shortage, what we call shortage differentials, but they have to be based on certain criteria, and that's set by civil service rules, which are based on statute. So there are limitations, and the collective bargaining agreements still kind of supersede all of the things, you know, they're subject to collective bargaining. So I think that's one of the challenges is movement and changes within this kind of tight infrastructure of, you know, regulations by the legislature, you know, so civil service rules as well as the collective bargaining agreements. But we do use differentials as much as we can within the definition that it allows us to do that.
Okay, so you're saying HRS precludes us from doing across the board differential?
Yes. I mean, well, the collective bargaining agreements don't allow us to just move people, you know, without some rationale and justification.
Okay, is that a shared understanding? Because when I
Yes.
talk to the public sector unions there, none of them are like, oh no, you know, don't pay us more because that's going to violate the collective bargaining agreement. I mean, most of them are like, yeah, it's good to have healthy competition with, you know, especially if we're below a living wage. I don't know. I'm just wondering if that's a shared perspective among all the parties to the collective bargaining agreements, or if that's just the city's kind of interpretation of
I
it.
think it's it's generally understood that that's how we operate. We are bound to the collective bargaining agreements that we agree to every 2 to 4 years. So except for these certain situations where we have recruitment challenges, shortage, and that kind of thing, we can do certain differentials and recruitment incentives to help those specific classes. But I think it has to fit the certain criteria, and when it does, we are, you know, are aggressively pursuing that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Mala Chair.
Thank you, Member Toba.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Director.
Good afternoon.
There are some departments that serve core city functions and have historically and significant vacancies. So, like DPP, DDC. Is this something the city can do to prioritize hiring and filling positions in these priority departments, like maybe having an internal HR group in the department?
Thank you, Council Member. A lot of the long-term vacancies that we see, that you're seeing, are highly specialized. And so often what happens is there's someone in the city that has done that job for a while, or jobs, and when they leave, it's difficult to replace them or to fill those jobs if there's not a pipeline or somebody isn't ready to be promoted into those jobs. So, and then also, you know, we realize that sometimes with these specialized positions, we have to put recruitment incentives. That's why you see the HPD offering some recruitment bonuses, and we have done that with other specialized jobs as well.
But wouldn't it make sense that if, say, DPP with the expertise and the knowledge would kind of know what to look for in an employee that they can, review and get hired right away if something like that happened, like an HR internal group? Would that help? Would that move things
Well,
along?
Every department has their own hiring personnel, their own administrative staff, which, HR, we don't manage them. They report to each of the directors. So they are providing subject matter expertise across their departments in all the positions. So I believe that really they know the market, they know the different places where to look for specialized positions, people to fill them. So I really think, they're doing their best, and I think that is just a function of the labor shortage and the specialization of the positions. And again, if there's critical or hard to fill jobs, we look at shortage differentials to address the salary issues. But again, it really is sort of, incumbent on the department's HR staff and their administrative staff to move and try to address, look at different options for the different positions. And they're the most qualified people to do that. And we support them in, as much as we can.
Thank you, Director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Member Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. Director Designate, I just want to first of all say I've appreciated working with your department on the various anti-discrimination policies we've tried to update to get them to match the state and federal and sort of best practices in the private sector. And that's been a really a highlight of working with your department. I also appreciate your work and I think the discussion that we have here on chipping away at our city's hiring issue. I do continue to hear from departments, and as we get into the budget process, I continue to hear from them, though, that it is a huge frustration. Over at DPP, investigators being classified as inspectors, even though those are two different things, they're similar but different. And so what I'd like to, I guess, ask your department to do at some point between now and budget is I'd like to see some metrics. I'd like to see some metrics about how many individual position descriptions there are, how many have had substantial updates over the past year, and then what goals you have in the coming year to continue that process. Because as much as I know you and your team are working hard to chip away at the issue, if you're only able to chip away at 10 position descriptions in a year, that's nothing. But if you're able to do hundreds or 1,000 out of the several thousand the city has, then we're really we as a council are going to be excited to hear that. So you don't need to answer that for now, but I would like to better understand that so we have some real metrics by which we can gauge your team's success.
Thank you, Council Member. I appreciate that. And I do want to clarify that the position descriptions, again, we're not subject matter experts on these. They're actually created and revised by the departments. And so we are looking at technology to increase capacity to help them and for them to be able to also increase capacity to make changes. But yes, I'm happy to provide that to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. Real quick, Director Miyazaki, a couple months ago you gave me a detailed explanation of the collective bargaining process, including job classifications, minimum classifications, step increases, rewriting the job descriptions, bargaining units, and whatnot. I think at the appropriate time it might be helpful for you to give that same presentation to the members based on all the questions that we're getting. On a side note, Managing Director, I want to just point out how fantastic Director Miyazaki is at the neighborhood board. I go to 7 neighborhood boards, now 6, and oftentimes the council member or the mayor's representative probably gets the most questions, whether it's, Board of Water Supply, more than Board of Water Supply, HFD, HPD, the state rep, or the state senator. It's usually the council member or the mayor's rep. So I just want to point out what a great job she's been doing and oftentimes takes the heat off of me. so thank you.
Thank you, Council Chair. It's been a pleasure to work with you at the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. Thank you.
Okay, Member Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Nishimoto. So first off, thank you, because I think we did all receive, get to talk to you about exactly what Chair Waters mentioned. So I think you briefed all the members about it. I just think I want to be, for me, being able to see in my last 4 years here is just like, how can we get more flexibility? I understand my state representative was here to meet with me and Chair Waters, and I asked her the same thing, and she's like, we're having the same issue at the state legislature too. So it's like, if everyone's feeling the same certain way, it's just someone needs to take the lead and say, we need flexibility. We need something. So even if it starts smaller a little bit, it would be great. And even if it's just with a bump in the pay for the different classes, I don't know, something minute that we can champion for, yeah. So that's all.
Thank you, Council Member. I agree. I think it would be great to have a little bit more flexibility, but also just to be able to make some changes in terms of modernizing some of the longstanding classes and positions.
Okay, thank you, members. Any other questions? Seeing none, Chair recommends that Resolution 2515 be reported out for adoption. Any WRs or noes? Thank you, members. Moving on to
Thank you.
Resolution 25-22, nomination of Lloyd Yonenaka to serve as Executive Secretary to the Neighborhood Board Commission. Mr. Yonenaka.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Chair Waters, for the kind words to one of the best. NOLA is actually outstanding. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge a couple things. One is the Managing Director Formby's comment about the accomplishments of this administration, and he pointed to the directors, the people they hired. And I think I agree with you completely. It is the essence of who we are, is the people we hire. And I just wanted to say, from my perspective, my accomplishment is based on the people I hired. I got a really good group right now. They work hard, they get along with each other, and they work well with others. They have a very difficult job because their job deals with people all the time. And I wanted to thank you, all of you, because all of you attend our meetings, our neighborhood board meetings, and you are very, very much appreciated. I just want you to know that. The board members and my staff appreciate your presence there. So with that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, anyone in person to testify, please come forward. Seeing none, any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Member Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Nishimoto. Hi, Director Yonenaka. Thank you very much for being here and being very responsive to the council for any of our requests to either make the boards get more training so that they're nicer. I mean, not nicer, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, I'll just say nicer. And more behaved, but also for ensuring that we still have a lot of the board meetings streamed through YouTube and just allowing that more accessibility, and then also listening to us the last 2 elections. So that has helped a lot, seriously. And I know I'm excited to see how the system has gotten better with this year's elections as well. So with that, we know that the neighborhood board numbers continues to increase, especially during the remote meetings. But how are you trying to keep up that amount of numbers that are participating remotely to come back to in person, or just to stay involved or engaged? Because now it's kind of dwindling down again, and for my areas. So
Yeah,
I can't speak for everyone else.
you know, it's always been a challenge to get, I mean, for a long time now, the numbers of people who attend the meetings and participate has gotten lower. It always is a challenge to get those numbers up. COVID did not help. COVID just kind of wiped us off the meeting schedule for a lot of people for about a year. At the same time, it changed the world we live in, because now we have remote meetings. Now we have people who can participate even from home. So in one sense, it was great. In one sense, it wasn't. Our challenge right now is to get back to a balance, because there were so many boards that were meeting remotely, and they really miss the in-person meetings. Currently, I have 3 boards that meet only in person, and the rest of them are what we technically call a hybrid, although it's actually called a remote meeting. We will continue that, and we are of the mindset that what would attract more people to our boards is to be able to run our boards meeting better, be more efficient on time, get to the point as quickly as possible, and also increase public participation. And part of it is with the council being there and the other legislative bodies, but also the administration being there. What I would like to do, and this is, it's trust me, it's taken a while to kind of adjust to what we can do and how we can do it. One of the keys, I think, going forward is how fast we respond to any question that comes from the public. As you know, if you've covered any neighborhood boards for a while, you understand the question will come in to you or us, and we would follow it up, but the answer would come in the next meeting. I would like to speed that up. If I can answer that question right then and there, I think the public will appreciate that. I think what I would like to do is make sure the boards are a resource for the public so that if they have a question or a concern, they can show up and get an answer as quickly as possible. And it's just being responsive. So in my mind and with my staff, we're mulling over the things that we can do. And I mean, again, it's just a thought, but one of the things we do is we collect a lot of data. We have how many questions from every board meeting? We get 10 every board meeting at least. After a while, we should be able to collect those those questions, categorize, and have a file that you can access. So that let's face it, everybody asks about chickens, everybody asks about homeless, everybody asks about speed humps, on and on and on about the park. So if we already have that, how do I get a speed hump in my community? Boom, right here. What can we do about chickens? Boom, right here. And trust me, the departments are very tired of answering the same questions again and again and again. But we have the information, we just need to categorize it. We just need to collect that data and use that data again. So that is one of the ways I think the public will look at the boards and say, you know what, it's worthwhile for me to go because I can get an answer. So to answer your question, partly that's one of the areas that we're looking at right now.
Okay, thank you. Member Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Lloyd, or Director Nonaka. I do want to thank you. I know you've come before us before. I did have concerns about the efficiency of the neighborhood boards that we have to attend. Many of us we have multiple. And so I have seen an improvement in certain things, and I think that's probably due to your training or trying to educate the chairs and the board members. I do still see, boards where there's confusion, there's quorum issues, and there seem to be, they're not sure of what to do. So I think that's still a concern. And many times either myself or my staff are sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, and sometimes they are able to convene, but many times they're not able to. So I would like to just encourage that to continue. I will say that the staff that you guys have at our neighborhood board meetings are wonderful. I'm really grateful for them and what they do. They're not just there to run the cameras, but behind the scenes, and they really help with the meeting and they help the chairs. And so I want to thank the staff that go to these neighborhood board meetings. I'm sure as fun as it is for us, they got to sit through most of these things on multiple occasions. I did have a question about in the trainings with the neighborhood boards and their chairs, is there a way to educate them or at least convey to them how they stack their agendas? Because I go to multiple board meetings and sometimes they will put so many things on the agendas and then they put the government electeds at the end. Recently, some of them have moved us up, but I understand that they want to talk about everything. But when we have so many issues on the agenda, and then at the end they're like, you have 1 minute because we're going to cut our time up at 10 o'clock, and we sit there for hours because we want to report to the community. But that's something that I feel is not very efficient. If there's any way to communicate that.
Maybe in a certain context, it will help everyone understand what we have. And part of the challenge is I do not manage the boards. They do not work for me. They're not like my staff. And the boards were created to be a platform for the public to come and interact with their government. In my perfect world, I understand exactly what you were saying, and in my perfect world, it would be a lot more interaction between the public and you and the administration. And that at the same time, I understand, and the way the boards are structured, at the end of the day, it is their board, it is their meeting, and we can advise, we can suggest, we can do all these things. But at the end of the day, if they say, we don't like what you said, we're going to do it this way. Okay. You know, and that is, trust me, that is a challenge when we advise that you can't do that because that is not a sunshine law compliant. And the response is, well, okay, we don't care. And okay. And the whole point, though, it does actually funnily, interestingly fit into the fact that this is a community organization. You know, so, okay, whatever you guys decide, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. That being said, who funds the neighborhood boards?
We
do,
fund the
correct?
board, but basically what our office does is we make sure the meeting can happen. So we will pay for the meeting space. We will bring the video cameras. We will have the NA there take minutes. We will bring the screen and projectors, and we will locate everything in that room. So we fund the boards, and the board members are there. They really don't have much of a voice in funding it because whatever they need is there. You know, we supply everything.
So the city does, correct?
The city does, yes.
Which I actually thought, because when I go to these things, and I went there prior to being in the city, there's state representatives and senators, there's also at the federal level. But how much does it cost? You know, I'm wondering, we're footing the bill completely on the city level. Can we get help from outside of the city? And if not, then is there a way to figure out, hey, if you're telling me that we can't direct or you can only advise, if this is being funded by the city, I think we should have a say in at least some kind of input in how these things are run, or how, if we can get positive, constructive criticism, because it is taking up, you know, time on us and our staff to go and attend, and it is taking time for your staff, and it's the city's, at the city's expense.
Yes, originally the boards were created at the county level. It is a county-sponsored system. Eventually, over time, that the responsibility of the boards, and I think the boards took it on themselves, that their views are the issues in our community are beyond just the city issues. It also is state and federal issues. So they invite the state and federal. And I think the state and federal government has an understanding that it is a county board, but they are there to provide information and outreach on their end. But you're right, we fund it completely.
Okay, good to know. You know, I know Chair Waters has served on the board. We all come from the communities, but I guess from our perspective, if there's a way that we can work with you guys to see how we can make the boards more efficient and productive, and not that they're not, but like I said, we have issues with quorum and lengthy board
Yes.
meetings that go on into the night.
It is an ongoing issue. I expect that I will, hopefully, this year's an election year. Going into next, after June, I am hopeful that we can address those issues. And at least during the inauguration of our new board members, I will address that. But I agree with you completely. We need to have a better handle on efficiency, just basic efficiency on how you run your meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Member Kiaino.
Thank you. Good to see you, and thanks for updating us on the question and answer, I guess, page that you'll be having. Is it going to be on your webpage with regard to frequently asked questions by constituents, like speed bumps and chickens?
Yeah, I haven't figured out exactly how to do it or where it'll be, but you know, again, neighborhood boards are a fascinating entity because we have so many questions coming from the community.
I know, but it's not just neighborhood boards, it's what we receive. And so I think all of us will have a good idea, but I guess I'm just saying, can you chop, because we do need it. And I have to tell you, I've had more chicken dialogues than most people. In fact, I was disrupted during the Super Bowl game by someone who wanted to tell me about the chickens. And I said, hey, I already gave you the handout. It depends on the jurisdiction. And so, we were all laughing because I said, catch them already. Do you want the city to provide cages for you? Because if not, I'm going to have to figure out how to catch them for you. I don't know how much more I can explain to you. It depends on where the land is, okay? But anyway, I'm just saying
Right.
it would be helpful. I send them the chicken handout,
Ye-
but it would be nice. And I get a lot of questions regarding speed bumps, and I'm finding myself getting dizzy about having to regurgitate the same thing over and over. So it would be nice to have that like sooner rather than later. And I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Right, my staff is listening to this, so they got it.
Okay, members, any other burning questions? Okay, Chair recommends that Resolution 25-22 be reported out for adoption. Any WRs or noes? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Anyone here wishing to testify? Okay. Any remote testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Now we're in decision making. Chair recommends that Resolution 25-22 be reported out for adoption. Any WRs or noes? Thank you. Okay, members, we are on Bill 33, largely housekeeping. Anyone here wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none. Any remote testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Any questions? No one here to ask the question to, but any discussion? Okay. Chair recommends that Bill 33, CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any WRs or noes? Seeing none, thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 6, Youth Commission. Question of retain, amend, or repeal. Is Kivan Wong from the administration here? Okay, I don't see him. Anyone else wishing to testify? Please come forward. See none. Any remote testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, any questions or discussion? Okay, Chair recommends that the action on this matter be postponed until the next scheduled meeting of the Committee on International and Legal Affairs, or until a time determined by the Chair. In the interim, the Chair will take the matter under advisement and prepare a draft report and recommendations for consideration at the meeting. Any discussions or objections? Okay, thank you. Okay, members, we're going to move to executive session. The following items as posted on the agenda have been referred to executive session. I will read the items individually to allow for oral public testimony on each item. Agenda item number 7, anyone here to testify? Seeing none. Agenda item number 8, anyone here to testify? Seeing none. Agenda item number 9, anyone here to testify? Seeing none. Agenda item number 10, anyone here to testify? Seeing none. Agenda item number 11, anyone here to testify? Seeing none. Agenda item number 12, anyone here to testify? Okay, members, are there any objection to convening an executive session?
Chair, no objections, but could I request to have my policy advisor, Mr. Jamie Shadell, sit in with us in executive session? That's been allowed in the past.
And I'd be making the same request for Leitani Peltier, Chair.
Okay, recess subject to the call of the chair. CHRS Section 92-4 and 92-5A4 to consult in a closed meeting with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and/or liabilities of the city, the council, and its committees on the listed items on the agenda for executive session. The following persons will be participating in executive sessions. All council members present: Corporation Counsel Dwayne Pang, Deputy Corporation Counsel; Patricia Fujii, Special Counsel; Winton Park, OCS Director; Jana Pitchard, OCS Deputy Director; Seichi Layu, OCS Staff Attorney; Heath Williams from my office. Could you state your
Leitani Peltier
Okay.
from our office.
and Rep.
Amy
Okimura?
Shadell from Councilmember Okimoto's office.
Okay, thank you. For those members participating, there's no members participating remotely, so, okay, we're in executive session. Recess subject to the call of the chair.